Hello. During our videos that we have done, we also talked about the document understanding template. And in the template, we covered several areas like the taxonomy manager and how you do the initialization, digitization, and so on. And part of that is actually testing. So when it comes to the document understanding solution or the template, there are set of variables or like there are set of workflows that are dedicated to test different components of your document understanding template. So just to get started, since we last did the digitization, I thought of doing the testing part for the digitization. And this is a part that is not really covered a lot. So I thought this will be helpful as we do throughout this series. So let's get started and let's see how we can do the testing for digitization in the document understanding template. So what you see on the screen is my document understanding template. This is a fresh one. And under here, you can see mocks folder and another folder called tests. So let's only look at the test folder as of now. So here in the test folder, we have several folders like get transaction, digitizing, classification, and so on. And for this video, we'll focus on the digitize test workflow. So let's have a look how this looks like. So over here, if you are familiar with the basic concepts of testing, what we do here is this is the usual flow that we see in a test workflow. You see the given sequence, and then you say when sequence, and then at the end your test results or what you are going to verify. So to get started, let's see what we are doing over here. So in the given section, we read the config file. So this is the same read config file that you see in your template. So if you go into this unattended workflow, the action center, this is the read config file. So this will be happening over here, the read config file. So this is where you read the config file. So let's quickly have a look. You read the different sheets in the config file and load it into the dictionary. So that's what happens here. We covered that in one of our previous videos as well. So to get started, we first read the config file, and then we assign a set of variables like the max attempts, retry interval, and this is going to be the target file. So since we are doing a test, we may not have a queue item. So we need to provide the file that we are going to test for the digitizing step. So in the template, by default, they have given us a default file which is called the merge documents, and that's in the data folder and the example documents folder. So if you go here under data, you can see the example documents, and this is the merge document folder, the file. So here we have a certificate of filing, it's a scanned copy, and here we have an invoice which is a computer generated one, and then we have a W9 form and a receipt. So we are going to test this file for the digitization step. So coming back over here, so if the in target file argument is not provided, they take this as the default file. If it is provided, we take the file that's mentioned in the in target file path. So for the scenario over here, let's start with the default file. If you want to test your own, you can go here under arguments and provide your full file path over here. And then let's say we have the file now, and then what we do is the initialize process. So this is where you do the second step in your normal document understanding flow. So here you have the read config, then you start with the initialize process. We also covered this one in our videos. And then once you do that, this is where we start the testing. So to test, what I mean by testing the digitization part is you're actually testing the output of the digitize activity and basically comparing two results. So for example, your digitize activity gives you two outputs. One is the document text, other one is the document object model. So we are going to compare our document once it is digitized. We are going to compare the document object model and the document text with a pre-prepared file that contains the text, the document text and the document object model. So this kind of tests are mostly done to test how our OCR is performing. Like for example, if you have different OCR engines and you want to test how it is working or whether it is working on your documents, you can test it using this concept. So it does not have a lot of major things like you are going to compare each and every result that you are going to extract. That's not the idea. Here what you only do is just extract the text and then compare it. So what we do here is, since we are going to test with a pre-prepared one file, we call it the cache. So here, if we go into this workflow, this is all given in the document understanding template. So what we do here is we prepare the file path for this particular document, and then we check whether the document text is available, and we also check whether the document object model file is also available. So the document text is stored in a text file and the document object model is stored as a JSON file. And as of now, this is actually stored in this cache folder. So if you go inside this, here you have several files that are given to you by default, and these are the two files that we are going to look at. So this is the document text, which is a text file, and this is the document object model, which is a JSON. So the data inside this will also look like a JSON. Let's give it a second to open because it's a 4-page document. Here you go. This is the information. So this is like the default data. Okay, so we check whether these two are available, and then we read the document text file and load it into a variable called out document text, and we also replace do a simple replace over here to bring it to a standard, and then we read the JSON file that contains the document object model. So we read the JSON, and then because it's a JSON and we need that JSON format to be converted into a document object type, which we are going to use as the output. So for example, if we go into the Digitize workflow, this is the Digitize workflow, and if you go here, this actually gives us an output of the document object model. It is of this type. So we need to convert that JSON to this type for us to do the comparison. So that's what happens here. So over here, we do the conversion, we do the JSON conversion to that type using this code. And then that is returned, this information is returned. So basically here we check, I forgot to mention this if condition. So here we check whether these two files are available, and if it is not available, we directly go to Digitize and get the information out. If it is available, we read the file and get the output. So for our scenario over here, let's use the file to generate the test. So this is the subfolder, subfile, and then that information will be returned to this test file as an output. And in the last part, now we also have a file. So we are reading the data from the temporary, the stored data, and now for us to compare, we also need to digitize the file. So that's why we have this digitize workflow, and through this we will do the digitization through the actual file that we are using. So that's when we can compare the results. So we provide the same file over here to this workflow and get the results out. And lastly, we do a comparison. So over here what happens is we check the document object model whether this information whether it matches with our cached data. If it matches, this test case will be successful. If it does not, it will throw an error. It will basically say that it is not matching. We also do the same for the document text. So that's what you do over here. So this is our test. So let's give it a try and see how it works. So I'm just going to run this because I'm not going to change anything since I plan to use the default file. So let's give it a try. And in the digitize workflow over here, I have commented these two things. I will show you how this works. But for now, let's first run it and see how the results looks like. So let's give it a try. So I'm going to run the digitize workflow. It will do the initialization as usual, and it will do the initialize process and then load the information from our stored data and then do the comparison. Okay, so we have I have a breakpoint over here. So we have reached this point and we have done the digitizing for the document, and we have also loaded the stored data. And let's see how this comparison works. So it is saying these two are not matching. And let's try this. And it also says it is not matching. So that ends our test. So why it is not matching, we'll have a look. So basically, I don't know which OCR was used to generate that data that are stored in that text file and the JSON file. So I want to see whether if I use the document OCR, UiPath document OCR, and whether it will be always the same. So to do that, let's come over here, and I'm going to enable these two now. So I will just enable these two activities. What this does is, once we do the digitizing over here, once the text and the document object model is generated, I'm going to override that file, the text file, and the JSON file that contains the document object model. So this is how you do it. You do a write text file, you write the text for the text part, and for the document object model, I need to convert that to a text. So how you do it, you take the output of this, and I do say serialize and .toString. So this will generate the text version. So I'm first now going to run this workflow because I need to generate these two files. So to run this, I don't want to do a lot of changes in these workflows. So I'll just go here in the action center flow. Under arguments, I'll provide my test file, which is the same merge document file. And I'm setting this use queue to false because I want to process only this file up to digitizing. So I will also add a breakpoint over here. And let's run the main workflow. Okay, so we have reached the breakpoint, so I'll just execute this so that we can write the data to the two files. And now I don't want to continue, so I'm going to stop. So now I have the data using the UiPath Document OCR. Now I want to run the test again to see whether this matches. So if I use the same document with the same OCR, can I get the same output? So this is what I am going to test. You can also think of various different test scenarios for this, and if you have different ideas, you can also make sure to mention that in the comment section for others as well. So let's run this and see whether my test case turns out successful this time. Okay, so we have reached this breakpoint. Okay, I actually forgot to comment this thing, but it is fine because by the time we reach this, we reach the digitize. Since we have the two files, this is already loaded. So let's just hit continue. And we are here. Let's see whether our test case is successful. Yes, so this one is successful. And this one is also successful. Okay, so our test for this is successful because we use the same OCR on the same document, and we know that it is the result is always matching. Now what if I want to test I have the data generated from a different OCR like the UiPath Document OCR, but in the real workflow, let's say I am using a totally different OCR. So over here, let me comment these two before I forget again. And let me use a different OCR engine over here. So instead of UiPath Document OCR, let me try using the Tesseract OCR. So I'm going to use this one over here. And let's see whether our output with the UiPath Document OCR matches with the Tesseract OCR. This is a very interesting test. Let's give it a try. So my data that I have already generated is using the UiPath Document OCR output, but in the real workflow over here, now I have a different OCR engine. So let's test it. Okay, so we have reached the breakpoint. Let's now see whether our output is matching. So it is doing the comparison, and as you can see, the output is not matching. Same will probably apply for the document text. Yes, so that's a very basic test that you can do with the digitize step. So what we do here is we just do a comparison whether the text from the file, whether it matches with the output of the digitize activity, and same goes for the document object model. But you can also think of different other scenarios where we can use this, and you can come up with your own test scenarios to test your output from the digitize activity. So maybe it is always not the same like as the exact comparison between the two, but you can do different other comparisons as well on these two results. So you can think about it, you can explore a little bit. I'll let you be creative on those things, and you can also mention in the comment section what you can come up with and what you think about the different other testing that you can do. So Yeah, so that this is how we basically do a simple test for the digitize activity or the digitize step in the document understanding template. So that being said, we are reaching the end of the video. And if you have any questions, if you have any other thoughts around this, please feel free to message me or put it in the comment section. And thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in another video.